I'm going to talk about red flags. And I want to talk to you. Well, this will be relatively quite quick because I think we've covered this before in Italy, and I might have given it away of what we're just about to talk about. And that's whether you should be allowed to change your tires under red flag conditions. So obviously we had a safety car, and the majority of the field boxed underneath the safety car because you get almost a free pit stop because you're boxing. The cars are going slower, so you only lose 10 seconds as opposed to the full 25 seconds. So Lewis came in, boxed. Bottas, rightly or wrongly, was driving slower than probably what he should have done and was holding up Max. So
wrongly is the word you're looking for. Just wrongly.
I'm sure we'll talk about that. I'm sure we will. There's so much to talk about. So yeah, Lewis came in, changed his tyres, but the Red Bull and Max Verstappen risked it, and they were like, you know what, we want track position. There's going to be another safety car. We'll change our tyres then. Which is fair enough because look at the nature of the track. We all thought it was going to be pretty difficult to overtake. So Lewis has got a fresh set of hards on and Max is still running the mediums. And then we go to red flag. But at this point, Max is leading the race underneath the safety car. And now Max can change from his used set of mediums onto a fresh set of hards if he so wishes. And that's exactly what he did. And got an even better pit stop than Lewis because it was completely free. So what's your thoughts on this whole situation? Where do you go with it?
Yeah, I have to say that I agree with Lando Norris, who said that it was very unfair that people can change their tyres. I think that replacing damaged parts that are the same spec is one thing, but changing tyres is too much of a freebie. You've had this delay between the safety car and the red flag, and I don't think that is necessarily an issue because they saw that a car went off in a risky place and they wanted to have the safety car to ensure that, that was the right call to make sure that there wasn't another incident with a car being in that position. But then they need time to assess any potential damage to that Tech Pro barrier. What happened is it had a puncture in the barrier and they had to lift it out and replace it. And that's why they had to have the red flag. So it maybe took them some time to assess that and say, oh, actually, we need to replace this, so let's red flag it. So some people have taken the gamble during that period, not knowing, red flag or no, what's exactly is going to happen. Some of them have taken the gamble to go for the pit, including obviously both Mercedes drivers, for example, who had that double stack. But then all of the potential strategy that goes into that evaporates and actually turns against them for taking that risk just because people are arbitrarily able to change their tyres under a red flag. It seems to me that if the session has stopped and tyre changing is normally something that happens during the race,
a live session,
then the session has ended. So you should not be able to do something that you would otherwise should be doing during the race itself. Whereas replacing those damaged parts, even that you could say, well, you damaged it during the race and the race is not happening right now. So if you want to repair it, then you say you damaged your front wing. It's like, well, you got to wait for the race to start again before you can change that. I don't know. Maybe that's a bit too harsh, but I think a happy medium can be struck between allowing some damaged parts to be replaced and saying, but you have to keep the same tyres. I think that seems much more fair when people have taken the risk during the safety car and then, sorry, it doesn't matter. Actually, it's a huge disadvantage for you to do that because your opponent can now get fresh tyres. How much impact that actually ended up having in this specific scenario is a bit doubtful because I think Hamilton maybe had like 2 or 3 lap older tyres under a safety car. So it's not like he was burning them down. But I think that we should consider the wider implications of these kind of decisions. And it has had a big impact before. So I do think it's time to maybe nip this particular one in the bud because it does seem a bit unfair.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I'm glad that you went with that stance because it's something I feel strongly about as well. And it's not just because it benefited. I feel strongly that it shouldn't happen. And that's not because Lewis lost out. Because if you go back to Imola, where we had a red flag, and Lewis managed to change his front wing and his tyres and maintain that race, so it clearly benefited Lewis then. So just making sure we strike the balance here. For anyone who's listening and is a Max and Lewis fan, this rule has definitely benefited both drivers throughout this year. But I think it's a rule which needs to go. I do. I think, like you said, changing your tyres is a strategic move during a live session, whether that be practice or qualifying or the race. You come in, the clock is still ticking. You are losing time, whether it's qualifying or the race. I don't believe in this whole, okay, the session stopped. That's it. Everything on your car should be as is. That is it. Unless, you might, like you said, there should be a finite amount of stuff you can change. I don't think tyres is one of them, unless you can prove you've got a puncture or something, and it'd be unsafe to drive out the pit lane with that tyre.
Yeah, anything that might cause a safety concern or might mean that the driver is not able to control their car properly, like they're missing a front wing or it's heavily damaged or something.
Yeah.
That I can understand, but a strategic advantage gained from simply, we'll just replace our tyres, that'll give us a bit extra.
Yeah.
It's too much of a freebie. It's way too much of a freebie when the session is supposed to have stopped.
Yep.
It's too much of an advantage to be gained.